So I've done about 6 takes to get this video started already, and I just want to start by saying this because this is the inevitable goal of this video, and that is I want you to become a pilot. I want you to enjoy the skies, to enjoy a career in aviation. And there's this big barrier that a lot of people face, and that is a medical certificate. I face this barrier as a young man, and I face this barrier still every year. It's very difficult to go through the medical process, at least in my case. And so I want to share that with you, my personal story. I also want to share a little bit about the basics of medical if you're brand new to this idea. And then we're going to fly. You guys want to see flying footage, right? We're going to fly to my appointment for my medical an hour or so from here in the airplane and get it done. So let's go, let's jump in, let's get this story started. Hey guys, my name is Chris Palmer. I am a master flight instructor, CFI here in Alaska at my flight school, Angle of Attack, where we also do online ground school. And this video today is gonna be a little bit more personal because at the core, I'm a pilot. I love to fly. It's why I got into this. I still really enjoy it. Have had some amazing flights recently here in the summer in Alaska. So I love it. That's the core of who I am. And I wanted to fly at a very young age. When I was about 16 is when I found out this is what I wanted to do. So this video is for those of you who are going to get a medical, which is essentially any pilot, but especially those of you that are worried about the process or thinking, hey, maybe someday, what if something creeps up with the medical stuff? What is the process like to go through that? We'll hit the basics of what that's like to go through medical, but this story is a little bit more geared toward what can go wrong and what you need to do if you have some medical history. I want you to be protected through this process, and again, my eventual goal is to get you to become a pilot. That's the basis of everything I do, from the flight school to the ground school to just who I am as an instructor, as an educator. That is my purpose of what I do. So I decided today to get very personal and share my personal story with you guys. So before we get there, when you become a pilot, you need to get a medical. And that means that you need to go through an official process with the FAA. This is a very simple process in some cases. If you are medically clear, you're just a healthy person, you have nothing going on, and it's fairly straightforward. You sign an online medical history, you go and take an appointment, they give you the medical right there. It can be very straightforward. However, as we know, most people have some medical history of some kind. And it's not just medical, it can be maybe substance abuse history, it can be mental health history. Anything kind of goes when it comes to this medical stuff, and the FAA wants to check it out, make sure that you are cleared and safe to fly in the skies that they are in charge of. So you go through this process of getting a medical, and you'll get a first class, a second class, or a third class. Eventually, you can even qualify for what's called a basic med. And these are just different classes based on whether you're going to fly commercially as an airline pilot or a commercial pilot or just a private pilot. So different levels of medical. We're not going to get into a lot of that here. But that's the basic process of getting a medical is you need to get one. You're going to get a certain class based on where you're going in your career or your hobby. If you are getting a career or doing a career, I would give you the advice to go for the first class and go for that. However, this process is very strict if you have a medical history, and they look very closely at every single case and make sure that you are cleared. So if you want more information about this entire process, including more about my story, you can go to Total Student Pilot on our website, and that will give you, we'll talk about this there, like the process of getting your medical, for about 20 minutes. But here we're going to focus more on just the basics, like I just told you, my story, and then actually going and getting my medical. So I want to take you back in time now, which with my math is 23 years ago, when the light bulb went on and I decided that I wanted to be a pilot. Very interesting time. You know how it is when you first decide that you want to go for this, or you find out that you could get a career in aviation and that fire is just lit within you that you want to do this. I was 16 years old and I was very passionate about it. I knew that this is what I wanted to do, but I had a medical history already. I had recently been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which was a surprise. And we were, meaning my parents and I, we were really surprised by it because we kind of caught it by accident. I've been very, very blessed to have a benign case over these years that hasn't really affected me, and super blessed to be in that position because many people aren't as lucky as me. And I totally recognize that. But we just happened to catch it. It was diagnosed. It was pretty indisputable with the evidence and the tests that we did that I did have it. So that was on my medical history. Knowing that this was a big deal, I was going through ground school at the time, and this whole process of the medical thing came up, and our instructor, our ground instructor at the local college, said, hey, this is the process you kind of have to go through. And I'm not sure if he gave us the advice or if I just kind of decided to do this on my own, but I decided I was going to call around to some of the doctors in the area and talk to them about MS and whether or not I could fly as a pilot with MS. And so that was kind of the big question in the back of my mind. This question that I actually really wanted to avoid, because I think just naturally as humans, we don't want that no answer. And it's really scary to think, hey, someone can kind of control my dream. So what I ended up doing, I ended up calling 3 or 4 doctors. And the first doctor I called in. I'd never even talked to the doctor. I talked to just one of the nurses or one of his assistants and kind of told her my situation just very quickly. Hey, I'm a pilot, or rather I want to be a pilot. I'm training to be a pilot. I would like to do it as a career. However, I have a history of MS and was recently diagnosed. So I want to know if we could figure this out. She says, hang on a minute, I'm going to go talk to the doctor. And she comes back and she says, the doctor says that there's no way that you can become a pilot. And literally, that is what she said. And I was just so dumbfounded, like, how in the world is that true? That's not even fair. And so, I said my pleasantries or whatever, hung up the phone, and I started to cry. I was very upset about this. I was very upset that it felt like my dream was over. But it wasn't a few moments later that I decided I didn't have to take no for an answer. I was a healthy person. I did have this diagnosis, and it was important to go through this process. But there are a number of these AMEs, these doctors, these aeromedical examiners on this list, and I'm going to call some people until I get a yes, or I can at least investigate this process, because who is this doctor to just tell me no without even knowing who I am or what the process or what my history is? So that's exactly what I did. I called around, ended up finding a very, I would say, pilot-friendly AME, meaning they were a pilot. They like to keep people moving through this process. And so I started this process of getting a medical. I wanted to be an airline pilot at the time, so I wanted that first class medical, which has the most restrictions. They give it the most scrutiny, has many more disqualifying factors to it and things. But we went through this process of sending the paperwork to Oklahoma City, where the FAA is, and it was in the system for months and months and months. And finally, we got the answer back that I was approved, that I could become a pilot, or that I could get my medical. This was all before I ever took an hour of training or any flight lesson. And so that just felt awesome. It felt awesome that I could do this. And the big lesson I learned is that you can never take no for an answer. And you've got to have someone on your team that will fight for you, and that's going to be your doctor. They hold a lot of power, the doctor that you choose. You need to talk to them off the record before you ever start anything, and I think that's super, super important. Don't ever fill out the paperwork on MedExpress is what you're going to fill out. It's a website. Don't ever fill that out without telling them your medical history first. Any criminal, substance abuse history, mental health history, make sure it's all off the record before you ever start anything. Because once you start that process, it's this snowball effect that you can't really control. Now, that's not to say that we're going to lie about the process. It's not. You're not going to hide things. You're only going to volunteer the information that you should, though. And when you do volunteer that information, it needs to be done in a strategic way. So you need to make sure you have all of that information, recent medical checkups, if that's necessary, and go through that process. Now, there are many, many, many things that you can have, meaning medical conditions, as a pilot and still get approval. The approval process is very arduous, and it can take months and months and sometimes years, thousands of dollars, and it's just a big, big pain. These medical classes that I just explained and talked about, I got a first class. They are active for a number of years, but sometimes when you get these special cases like mine, they call it a special issuance, and I have to get my medical done every year. it is not valid for any class after 1 year. And that's atypical because usually it lapses into a different class. So I have to go through this process every single year of going to the doctor. And it's been an interesting journey. There have been a couple years where I let it lapse because I was, some major life changes and things, had to go back through the process of sending it to Oklahoma City, that sort of thing. And it was always reiterated to me through that process. It's really important you find a good doctor, you talk off the record before you start, and, have that person on your team. Now, more recently, and over the last handful of years, there's something called Pilot Protection Services from AOPA. And for those of you who don't know AOPA, they are an organization that their sole goal is to fight for us as pilots, advocate for us with the government, with the FAA. They do that through legislative efforts with actually going to Congress and helping to do legislation there and some of the FAA reauthorizations that we have periodically. But they also will get directly involved in your case on issues like your medical stuff. And they have this thing called Pilot Protection Services. I've been recommending it for a while now. But at the core of Pilot Protection Services is medical. And if you have some medical stuff going on, this is another avenue I would definitely, sign up for right away. If you're planning on becoming a pilot, even just sniffing it, if you're even thinking about it, sign up for that right away and talk to your doctor off the record. AOPA is going to have a lot of advice and thoughts and some ideas on the process. They deal with this on a daily basis with many members, and they're going to make sure that you are set up and ready to go when you go and start this process and that you do it correctly. It's going to be really up to you to find a good AME. They can recommend some people, and they may know some particular AMEs that are good in your area, but there are a lot of AMEs out there based on where you're located. So you have to do some due diligence, make sure they're very friendly, pilot-friendly sort of AME. They're not just willy-nilly sending paperwork off to the FAA, but they want to try to keep it local, try to do what they can to get you approved within the boundaries. And of course, talk off the record. I've said that like 10 times because it's so important. So that's someone you need on your team. You need AOPA on your team with Pilot Protection Services if you have anything medical, and you are going to need a great doctor. So those are the two people you need on your team. That's kind of outside of, having a great flight school and having a flight instructor that's awesome. A flight instructor you can kind of fire and find a new one if they don't really work out, or go to a different flight school. But once you start the medical process with one doctor, you can't really do that. There's no going back. Once that process is started, there's really no way of stopping it. So before we go flying, that's the long and short of it. You have to get a medical to become a pilot. If you have any medical stuff, you need to make sure that you're good to go before you actually start the paperwork. Talk to your doctor off the record, find a good doctor, get AOPA Pilot Protection Services on your side. It's a very worthwhile investment. And again, if the FAA comes back and they ask for a bunch of information or a bunch of tests, it could cost you thousands of dollars and years of delay. It'll pay for itself in seconds. So please, please, please follow that advice, because it's something that I see all the time. People struggling with this process, and you've really got to have the right people on your side. So with that said, now we're going to take the airplane. I'm going to go up to my AME. He is a very pilot-friendly AME and a great guy. Last year, we even had this kind of kerfuffle with the FAA where I needed a test done, so I needed to go to a neurologist, and they couldn't get me an appointment for it was a long time, for months. They were months out, but I needed a medical right now. They ended up working with the local regional office with the FAA. They got me a temporary extension so I could still fly, and then I went and got that test done a few months later when I could get an appointment in another state. So it was a crazy process. I literally had to fly somewhere else to get that done. And I have to do it every year now. Well, I've always had to do it every year, but every year I literally travel to go to a doctor I've always used for my neurologist stuff. That is a report I have to give to the FAA. Last year, because I had a great doctor, we went through this process and I was safe and was still able to fly. This year I did a little better. I had that test done before I ever went and got my medical. And so we're going to see how that goes. We're going to take that paperwork to them today, And the idea is that I can walk out of that office today with a brand new, fresh, first-class medical. So that's enough of that. Let's get all this camera equipment torn down. Let's pre-flight the airplane and see where we're at and what today's gonna be like.
On the road, I've been away for far too long, but now I'm on my way back home. I hear the west winds calling.
Forward traffic 234, Charlie, we're taking runway 4, and we'll be a right-hand turnout climb over the ridge.
Keep your eyes on the horizon. I was looking to belong when I'd already found my...
Alright, power's in, engine's green and alive, airspeed's alive. And we rolling.
I'm there before the setting sun.
She's ready to peel off. And a little back pressure, there she goes. A little more right rudder. Flying over the center line. And we'll climb on out. And so I'm just going to do a right-hand turn, kind of climbing up. Might get a little bit higher, might do a couple turns over the airport. And then I'll head that away on my flight plan. And in the meantime, pick up my IFR.
I was looking to belong when I'd already known that you would be there when the rains are gone. Like a light in the night, you will always be my home.
Anchorage Center, November 2423 uniform.
Who's that?
November 2423 uniform, just off of Homer, climbing to the north. VFR would like to pick up my IFR to Lake Hood.
Hello?
So now we're going to go through a handful of things. We're going to get a squawk code. We're going to get all this, our clearance stuff.
423 uniform, squawk 4511.
4511 2423 uniform. So just entered that in. That's going to pop me up on his screen. He's going to see me right away.
2423 uniform, radar contact over the Homer VOR. Say your altitude, and are you able to maintain your on-terrain obstruction clearance at 5,000?
23 uniform, we can maintain terrain obstruction. We're passing through 4,100, climbing 5,000.
2423 uniform. Clear to Lake Hood via Homer VOR, Victor 438S, file maintain 5,000.
Clear to Lake Hood, Victor 438, Homer VOR, and Anchorage, 23 uniform, 5,000. 5,000, so... 5,000 to Lake Hood. Alright, I guess we're getting a little IMC.
25266, connect Anchorage approach 126.4.
We've got a little bit of a headwind. That's going to take a little bit longer for us to get there, which is fine. I've got some time to spare. I need to have my medical appointment done by the 9th because I have this letter from my doctor that is only good within 60 days. So today is the 3rd. So say that my flight didn't work out today, I'd be able to drive up there or do something else in the meantime to be able to figure it out before that time, just so I'm all good. So in other words, I had those external pressures, right, to go and do my medical, but they aren't really that big of a pressure because I can always do it later. So I'm not super concerned about it.
99, contact Anchorage Center 127.5.
So the pressure's off me, I can enjoy this, and it can be a cool flight for us.
I was just calling to see if you're free to run away with
Lakewood Tower 2423 uniform, overpass.
November 23 uniform, runway 32, clear to land, your number 1.
Clear to land 32, number 1, 2423 uniform. Someone right behind me, I see him at our altitude. I'm cleared to land, so I can do whatever I want to descend down and get there. And I aim for the trees at the edge there, because I know that's where I come over the side to the runway. And bring my power back. Set seatbelt switches, got our lights on.
Traffic to follow is approaching Minnesota, runway 32, clear to land.
Clear to land 32, number 2, looking for that traffic, 185 kill. The Tower Tango 75 November, power line intersection with Mike for the water.
Tango 75 November, Lakewood Tower, traffic heading to your right, outbound, altitude unknown.
51 Tango, got a both sides.
51 Tango, thank you. 78 Hotel, the first one is straight ahead, the second one's about a mile in trail, then report them both in sight. This one's passing off your right, the second one's ahead and to your right.
Hotel's got all traffic.
Senator Roger, number 3, runway 32, clear to land.
T3 uniform clear.
All right, we did it. I'm on the taxiway here, so I'm gonna hurry and get out so we can back it up, and then we'll be on our merry way. So that all went pretty good. All right, here in Anchorage, my friend Kevin's picking me up, and now we're gonna head over to the doctor. So we really don't have a lot of time, only 15 minutes until my appointment. And yeah, we'll get all spiffied up for the year. So fun flight, fun arrival. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And let's drive on over. Sign it.
I'm gonna sign it. Yeah, Bob's got a great story as well. Right there for me. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna put this on your chart
copy
as a backup, and then so you can put it. There you go. This one's yours.
Great, thanks. Okay, just got done with the doc. I've got a brand new medical here, so I'm all legal to go now for another year, and it feels really good. This last year we had a bit of a kerfuffle with my paperwork and stuff. I didn't go to a specialist before I came, so anyway, it became this huge deal. This year, we're on top of things. Things went really well. Got to know Dr. Healy a little bit more. So anyway, really cool. We're gonna go grab some lunch, and then I guess I'll head home sometime. Get some flowers, and then head home.
Your security, there's no guarantee on anything.
423 uniform. The sun is shining. And we got an otter taking off from the strip. I also went to the flower store.
You gotta do untie it.
Oh, there you go, yeah, and we got some flowers to take home for some summertime decoration.
This rope is terrible. Prickly.
Yeah, it's really nasty. Here we go, Kevin had a grand idea. There she is. Flower power.
Lakewood Tower, Skyhawk 2423 uniform, holding short 32 Hotel 4 with Romeo southbound to Homer.
2423 uniform, Lakewood Tower, roger, right turnout 2 door overpass is approved, runway 32, clear for takeoff.
Cleared for takeoff 32, right turnout to 2 door overpass 23 uniform. Homer traffic 204, 3 mile final 22.
Time will leave our troubles behind.
All right, guys, I'm back at the mothership. Beautiful flight, pretty simple. Just kind of direct all the way home, a little bumpy, but other than that, just great. So, hope you guys enjoyed this story about my medical process and what I've been through and what it can take for you to get where you're going. I definitely recommend that you guys go check out AOPA Pilot Protection Services, because it's one of the main things they do there is protect you from these big medical battles that people go through. So they have so much information, so many people to help, and you just don't want to get on the wrong side of this. So make sure to go check them out. There is a link in the description to help you do that. And if you have any questions, of course, leave those in the comments. If you have any questions about the medical process, I may even get AOPA involved. Maybe they can jump in the comments. But thanks for being here. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you got something out of it. Fly safe, and until next time, throttle on.